Go.
This podcast is sponsored by
Terraform Development is a rising engineering design and project management company located in Flagstaff, Arizona. Co-owners Eddie Kalnemtua and Stanford Lake started the company to bring economic-related projects to rural communities like the villages of the Hopi tribe. Some of the important work done by Terraform with the Hopi tribe are Tawaovi Master Plan, KUII radio station site plan, Hopi Tribal Housing Authority residential homes, and numerous other nonprofit types projects on the Hopi tribe. Terraform can be reached at 928-864-5022 or visit their website at www.terra4orm.com. That's TERRA, the number 4, ORM.com.
You are now listening to the Carl and J-Man Save the World podcast. I am your host, the 5-star, 5-diamond chef, J-Man, and with me is my good buddy, Carl.
Good morning and happy Wednesday, everybody, here on Hopi Land.
Happy Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever day you happen to be listening to the podcast. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, if I may follow in Carl's procedures there. But we're back with episode 9. We're about to close out season 3.
Season 3 is almost done. So I'm very, very excited about what's going to happen in season 4.
We got big plans for season 4. Not only season 4, but we got big plans for the podcast overall.
Yeah.
You've heard us talking about, this web series that we're going to bring to our YouTube channel. And right now, Carl's working out the logistics to make sure that everything looks good and crisp for you all. And so for those of you that bought us a cup of coffee this past week, that's where a lot of your funding is going towards. So a lot of the technological pieces that we need to be able to get this video show going.
So thank you everybody who has bought us coffee, because all of your donations and all of your coffee donations actually do go to the podcast here to buy different things for the podcast and to keep us staying alive with different amenities and stuff.
Mm-hmm. And then another remarkable thing happened this past week.
Oh yeah.
We reached 20,000 downloads.
All right, 20,000 downloads.
Very a remarkable milestone for us, because when I look back and think about when we first started the podcast, I didn't know that 20,000 downloads was going to be something that we were going to be able to achieve, but we did it, and we did it thanks to you all out there in podcast land, giving us the listen, sharing our podcast with your networks, and giving us those 5-star reviews on all of the podcast platforms.
So thank you, listeners out there. I'm going to give you another handshake or whatever, hand clap thingy there.
So we're popping bubbly in the studio, and so if we sound kind of a little bit off base today, you know why.
You know why. Yeah, exactly. And so today, we're going to be talking about an issue that we kind of brought up in our earlier podcasts, but we really haven't talked about it as much here. And it's because that not a lot of us do have these types of things, and that's why we don't want to really talk about these things here. So today we're going to be talking about working class.
Working class?
Yeah, working class.
I thought that you didn't like to work. How are you part of this working class?
Well, that's the reason why we never talked about it, is because I don't like to work as much.
Well, if I could contextualize this a little bit better than my partner here, I think that, one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, and the topic of today's episode, is balancing life and the working Hopi.
Oh, yeah.
Or the professional Hopi.
Oh, yes.
Whichever it is that you want to call it. Because, there is, within Indian country, within Native America, there is this concept of balancing two worlds that our people, indigenous people, like to discuss, talking about living in this quote unquote white man's world, but then also trying to maintain our identities, trying to maintain our life ways, and trying to preserve any type of cultural practices that Native folks have, But I think for what we're going to talk about today is going to be a lot more pertaining towards Hopi specifically, and those that live on the reservation and those that work on the reservation.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that the reason why we're going to focus on kind of that small area is because, it's kind of a unique situation when you're in it.
Oh, yeah.
And because, we've talked a whole lot within previous episodes about how we're very fortunate as a tribe, as Hopi people, that we've maintained quite a bit of our ceremonial and cultural practices, that you do still hear the Hopi language being spoken throughout the villages and, throughout places of business. And so one of the things that has occurred as a result of having still a lot of ceremony, having a lot of cultural practices, is that in a way it takes a lot of your time as an individual to focus on those things.
Exactly. And that is why most Hopis out here choose to have mediocre jobs or median jobs where they're not, where they're not counted on,
time demand.
There you go. Yeah, they're not counted on as like a boss, or they're not counted on as something that they seem to have put their more time into a job rather than their own culture.
And I think the reason why, I say that we focus on folks living on the reservation, because, our urban counterparts are the folks that are living in places like Flagstaff, Phoenix, that a lot of them do still participate in ceremony. But when you're living out here and you have the obligation to be fully involved with the ceremony, or to be fully involved with whatever cultural occurrence is going on, that it does take a lot more of your time.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you're here.
Yeah.
And so both you and I kind of spoke to this a little bit, in that, the people that raised us, my parents, your grandparents, that when were living in the urban areas, that they did kind of communicate to us that if you're unable to be fully involved, then you don't have to be involved at all.
Yeah. And that's the reason why most Hopis that do a lot of these traditions, or are in fact engrossed in a lot of the traditions that Hopi holds, never move off the reservation, never move towards a better life. They stick to what they really want to be a part of.
And I think really that's kind of where it makes this conversation unique and specific to folks that live out here, that work out here. Because then, within this whole, I guess, larger scope of Native America, within a lot of the conversations that Native folks have around place, around ceremony, around being indigenous and native off the reservation.
Oh, yeah.
That, there are some arguments as to how you can continue to be Hopi away from the reservation. But I think when it comes to your involvement in having ceremony, I think that's where it changes, because then a lot of our cultural shrines, religious shrines, are on Hopi.
Yep, exactly.
Our kivas are on Hopi.
Exactly.
Our gisonvi are all on Hopi.
And when you're born a Hopi, you're taught at a very young age to believe in the Hopi culture and to believe in what it means to be Hopi. And so when we grow up, we're thinking that, okay, yeah, I'm Hopi, but I still want to live like a Bahana on the outside world. I still want to get the green, and I still want to buy the Xbox or the PlayStation.
Visit Christie's every other night.
And visit Christie's every other night. And so, and so, we think of that mentality, and that's the reason why we're complaining so much that there are no jobs here on the reservation. It's because we don't want to leave the reservation.
Mm-hmm. And then this is, at least from my context, I can speak for myself, that, the arguments that I'm presenting at the moment isn't necessarily to say that if you're off the reservation that you're any less Hopi. It's just that when you're here on the reservation, that you are obligated to commit more time, to commit more resources, to commit a lot more of your life, I should say, to what goes on ceremonially and culturally.
Oh, yeah.
And then the fact that if you're a working professional, that you also have those obligations towards your job to commit that time, And depending on what it is that you do for work, because, we've talked about it a whole lot within our conversations around our economy out here, or the lack thereof. And so that there is only a small handful of people that probably can truly say that they have a career out here on the reservation, and then having that career and everything time wise that comes with it, in addition to the cultural and ceremonial obligations that go along with being Hopi.
So, in other words, you're putting 100% into your job and then 100% into your own culture.
Mm-hmm. And then so that's 200%.
That's 200%, way beyond what Bahanas think.
Way beyond the scope of anybody else. And there is this other thing too that I also wanted to cover before we got into the kind of the main bones of the conversation. But basically, the fact that we've never really talked a whole lot about what you and I guess what our process and our thought process is going around the idea of talking about Hopi culture and Hopi religion.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
We've never talked a whole lot about that. As a group, we didn't really want to share specifics about our religion, about what goes on in the ceremonies. And I think really a lot of that is just really out of respect and the belief that, a lot of what we do behind the scenes within these ceremonies is secret.
Yeah, it is very, very secret, and it's sacred to not expose our traditions to the outside world. And that's the reason why Hopi is believed that we're still mysterious in a way. So I'm mysterious.
We're still mysterious, even though we share a whole lot on YouTube and Facebook and everything like that. And, I think that's really just a kind of a personal choice between you and I, the respect that we have for our culture, the respect that we have for our religion, that we don't want to share what we shouldn't be sharing. Because, really technically that anything that you could absolutely want to learn about the Hopi religion or Hopi culture is out there somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
That it's been published.
Oh, yeah.
And the only reason why I know this is because that once upon a time I had access to the Arizona State University online library. And there were many documents that are produced by the anthropologists and historians that visited the Hopi reservation in the late 1800s that documented basically everything.
Oh, yeah.
Our most sacred of ceremonies.
Oh, yeah. And there are pictures online depicting all of these ceremonies.
Mm-hmm. And so when all the old ones are gone, then that's probably what our references are going to be when we try to keep our ceremonies going.
Yeah. So there's probably a picture of me at Christie's Cabaret, but so if you find that, that's probably a relic.
And so, that's really some context as to, what our perceptions are around sharing, information about culture and religion. But moving the topic forward is that, we talked kind of briefly about what the time commitments are, but, what are some time commitments that you can think of, at least on the cultural side?
Well, there's a lot of that because when you're working on the reservation or when you're working off the reservation, you have to commit your time to either one. You can't commit to both of them at the same time. And I know there's a lot of Hopis that are on the outside saying that, okay, I have these religious obligations that I need to do on the Hopi reservation. But when you talk to a Bahana or a white person about these things, your manager, they don't understand. They'll say that, no, your time here is my time. So if you're not going to be dedicated to here, I cannot let you go because of your cultural practices. And so, which creates this sense of this guilt or this feeling of regret that you're not out there all the time with your own people, with your own clan.
And then that's roadblocked the fact that you work off the reservation. Having managers that don't understand the importance of our religion, the importance of our culture.
Oh yeah, exactly. So when I was working in Flagstaff, and that was basically my first job in Flagstaff. I went to my boss and I told her, it's like, oh, I'm Native American. And I do a lot of ceremonies. I do a lot of these things out at home. And so she's like, okay, so what type of ceremonies do you do? And I said, well, they're a little secretive, I said. And so she's like, well, if you're not gonna tell me what you do, then I cannot let you go because of, I think you're just lying to me. And I said that, no, I really do these things out at home. And so she's like, well, have your chief write you a note. Have your chief write you a note to say that you can be excused on these days like that. And it's kind of, I kind of get scared when you take a job on the outside, because you're always asking for weekends off. And like weekends for Bahanas is like, oh, that's a vacation to them. And so I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I don't ask for weekends as much, maybe Fridays, and just not come to work on Saturdays and stuff like that, maybe then I can call in sick on Saturdays. So, that was like my mindset. So it was an arduous task to dance around Bahana rules, just to try to come back home and practice the religion.
That's a really good story, Carl, but it has absolutely nothing to do with the question that I asked you.
I did. It's the time management. It was the time.
I asked, what is the time commitment in regards to Hopi cultural and ceremonial practices?
And I told you.
I didn't ask you about your first job in Flagstaff.
And I told you it was because there was that time part of it is that you're putting more time and effort into trying to practice your religion whilst trying to keep your job on the outside. So it's very, very hard.
Well, let's let J-Man have a crack at it.
Okay, go ahead.
And, because to me, it's really important that, especially for folks that aren't necessarily familiar with the time commitment that is required by, certain ceremonies or certain types of other cultural obligations. But, I guess in a way for some that you can think about it as something like you're in school, right? And you're on the basketball team and you have basketball practice every single day. And so in a way, that's part of the time commitment that if you're going to be involved with ceremony, especially if you're working, because then it's like, from 8 to 5, you're at your place of employment, but then your evenings are taken up by however long that it has to go, depending upon what ceremony you're being involved with. And so that's a lot of time that's taken away from your personal time, whatever it is that you have to do at home, any type of house upkeep, or, takes time out of your Netflix and chill type of thing. And so, that really is part of, at least on the male side, a lot of what it is that we do. And there is a big difference. There's a difference between the male and female, what our obligations are in regards to our ceremony. And so on the male side, when you're involved with ceremony, I believe that I can share that we do go to the kiva every single night.
Yeah.
In preparation for ceremony.
And that's basically what I said.
You did not.
I did.
You did not.
I did. That's basically what I said. I said that it takes a lot of time and effort to balance out the different things like that, and trying to keep your job and trying to keep your religion straight. So
the quirks of Carl is part of what makes this podcast popular.
We can argue all day. So
even though you're wrong most of the time.
I am never wrong.
You're always wrong.
I'm never wrong.
Strong Ones is dedicated to exposing cultural traditions of running that exist within many cultures and tribes worldwide through running apparel. Strong Ones is an individually owned business supporting cultural running traditions and supporting local organizations within the Hopi reservation. They can be found at strongones.myshopify.com. Again, that's strongones.myshopify.com. They are also on Facebook at StrongOnes15. And so back to topic, but then, it does on the male side, it does require a lot of quote unquote kiva time.
Oh, yeah.
And so the kiva is basically, the center of all of our ceremonies.
Oh, yeah.
That most ceremonies take place within the kiva, or at least a lot of the preparation that goes towards the kiva. And the kiva, I guess, in a Bahana context, in a way, is our church. And so the male ceremonial participants spend a lot of time. There's so much time that, it's kind of developed these memes that you see on social media that's shared within the Hopi community. Basically, a lot of women are telling their husbands, it's either me or the kiva, because the men spend so much time in the kiva that it really does take them out of the home a lot of the times. And so any type of relationship or parenting obligations really lean heavy on the women, especially during ceremony time. time.
Oh, yeah.
Because the males are gone.
And that's why when we do these different ceremonies, we thank the women, because the women are the ones who hold down all of these things. They're the ones who are feeding the men. They're the ones who are taking care of the children, the guests, washing the dishes, taking care of the house during the ceremonies. And so it's when we do a lot of these ceremonies like that, we have to thank the women.
Mm-hmm. And then aside from, I guess that's kind of more on the religious side with having to be down at the kiva for preparation for ceremonies. The other big obligation that takes a whole lot of time on the male side is farming.
Oh yeah, it's farming.
So if you can describe what the time commitment in regards to farming, not your job in Flagstaff, what does that time commitment look like when you're a full-time farmer? Or at least a farmer that's also working a job.
Okay, so when I was working in Flagstaff, this goes well on with the story. Okay, this is important here. This is important to the listeners. So when I was working in Flagstaff, there was a lot of time that I could come back home and be with So and Kwa, and it was it was strange because you put more time and effort into your Bahana job than you do your religion. So when you go back out home, you're trying to make up that time in like going to the field or doing cultural practices, and you feel that guilt, you feel that obligation to always wanting to be there, that remorse of like other people doing Hopi stuff, and then you're out there watching, going to the theaters every weekend or like every other night. And you feel that guilt there, and it takes a lot out of you because you're not out there 24/7 doing a lot of these things like a real Hopi should be doing. So like, with a lot of that, it takes a lot from your mentality. It takes a lot from your spirit, basically. So
yeah, it does. And then I guess, and we've talked a little bit about farming on some of the episodes, but I don't think we've ever really kind of discussed what the importance of corn is.
Oh, yeah.
Corn is very important to our people still to this day.
Exactly. And see, now, we rely on rain so much. We rely on the snow, the heavy snow that used to come. But yet now, nothing, we don't have any snow or rain.
We're in the middle of a pretty bad drought.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what worries Kwa in a way. Like, how is he going to feed his family? Mm-hmm. How is he going to conduct a lot of the ceremonies that he still is involved with? Mm-hmm. So that's what it kind of constrains again. It kind of strains his mind.
It's additional stress.
Yeah.
It's additional stress. And then even with that too, like that, the time commitment in regards to farming, if you're a farmer and you're working on the reservation full time, more than likely your day starts when the sun comes up.
Yep.
And your day starts at the cornfield.
Yep.
And you're there as long as you can until you have to clock in.
Yep.
Then you clock in. And as soon as you clock back out, you're back at the field.
Yep.
Until it's dark.
Yep.
And then you're home.
Yep, exactly. But for people who do have like tractors and everything like that, it gets done within about an hour, and I can attest to that. I go down to the field, I start the tractor, plow the field a little bit, clean it up. Within about an hour, I'm going back home watching Netflix.
And then you mentioned this concept called the weekend.
Oh yeah.
And on weekends, we're down there at the fields most of the day.
Exactly.
And so that is additional time away from whatever else is that you'd like to do the Netflix stuff, the Netflix and chill, going to the movies, or even going on vacation. Because then sometimes people do ask me that do you go on vacations? Do you plan vacations for you and your family? And it's like, not really, because then you think about the full time of the year, because you think about spring break, right?
Yeah.
Spring break is a time when a lot of folks go on vacation because their kids are out of school. But that during the springtime is when we're still heavily involved with ceremony.
Oh yeah, exactly. And different villages have different things that they do throughout the year. Like your village doesn't have a lot of what goes on as far as like the first mesa or second mesa. So I'm pretty sure that you can plan for vacations a lot more better than what First and Second Mesa do. So
I'm busy, goddammit. Still do things.
but again, it's like you have to time manage your own self. You have to make time for yourself. You're a human being, and you like the human stuff. You like the glitz and glamour kind of things, all the shiny things that are involved.
Exactly. And anybody that's a professional within the mental health field will tell you that self-care is important. But then, when you think about, in these positions that we're talking about, when you're working full-time as a professional out here on the reservation, but then you have all of these cultural and religious obligations that you have very little time for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that, one of the biggest conversation topics that I wanted to talk about are what are some of the negatives you think? The fact that you have to give 100% on your professional side, and then you also have to give 100% on your cultural and religious side.
Oh, man, there are a lot of negatives to that. I mean, when I was working in Flagstaff, the negative side was that I couldn't help go like to the kiva that he always wanted to, because he's old, and I usually take him to the kiva because he likes the kiva. And so when I'm not out there, he doesn't know how to get to the kiva. Although my brothers are there, but they don't want to take him to the kiva. So, that's the negative side effect, is that, okay, well, if I don't do that, then I feel really guilty on not taking him, because he likes doing that. Hopi men love going to the kiva.
Yeah, it is a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah. So that's part of the negative. The other part of the negative is that, you're always trying to balance out a lot of your life there. You try to balance out like the Bahana side, where you're constantly saying that, okay, I need to get money for my family. I need to get groceries. I need to do all of these things for the family. But yet then I have the obligation to do a lot of things for the cultural side. And then you're trying to figure out how to do a lot of these things in the middle there.
It's a huge balancing act.
Oh my God, it is
huge,
very,
huge
very
balancing act, and it can be very stressful. That's probably one of the biggest negatives to having this two-sided life, is the burnout. Mental burnout.
It is. It is really, really a burnout.
Because then, when you think about your own experiences being involved with ceremony, that, the part of the ceremony that, we can share is that they can be very, it can cause fatigue, because there are sometimes where you have to stay up all night.
Oh, yeah.
There are some times where it asks for a lot of physical part of your body. So you're physically exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the women's side, a lot of cooking.
A lot of
cooking and cleaning.
Exactly. And, a lot of that comes with a lot being beside your husband or your brothers or your family members like that. Mm-hmm. And that takes a lot about Hopi. And so when we do a lot of these ceremonies, we basically kind of set aside all the Bahana things that needs to be done and then focus on the religion side here. But then that creates another thing too, is that Bahana doesn't wait for anybody. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so when that happens,
they don't care.
They don't care. Raining. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care if you're not missing work or not.
They don't care if your corn's not growing.
Exactly, and they're not going to care for that. And
they don't care whether you water your plants or not.
Until Bahana start praying and they're voting for like rain and. Then I'll be involved with Bahana politics. So. But for now, I don't really care at all for Bahana politics. So.
And, I think on at least from what I've experienced and what I've seen in the time that I've been back home, because I did move back home from the Valley in 2017. And so I've been here for about 3 years now, back on the reservation. But I think a lot of the strain and a lot of the stress that I see actually come from my coworkers. Because I work with all women. Uh-huh. Shout out to them.
All right.
They know who they are. And, especially when it comes to ceremony time, I really see them doing their best to try to navigate coming to work, but then still fulfilling the duties that they're responsible for their household when it comes to ceremony time. And it does make a big difference too. Well, maybe not a big difference, but there is a difference based on the village that you're from.
Oh yeah.
Because as you mentioned before, that that certain villages have more, that they do more ceremonies, that they do still have kind of a complete ceremonial cycle. I would probably say that Songopavi and Walpi, maybe Masangnavi, are probably the most active villages. And especially in Walpi is a village that doesn't push everything towards the weekend.
No.
That they still have their ceremonies on the days that they're supposed to, whether that be Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, based on different points of things like the moon and the sun and things like that. And so with my coworkers, that two of them are from the First Mesa area. And so, I do see them coming into work like at 5 o'clock in the morning so that they can get done what they need to get done. Then they're rushing off, back home to their village and, trying to fulfill whatever duties they need to do in their village. Because then like that, I think that there's a difference between whether, you're working a job to where, you can ask for time off and you get that time off. But when you're in a position that is an important position, an important job on the reservation that requires you to complete your job, whether there's ceremony or not, that those people that are in those positions have a tougher time.
Oh, yeah.
Because, even if your boss gives you the time off, but yet the work that you need to get done is going to affect others on the reservation, then that stuff needs to get done.
See, and there are other villages out there that do practice where they shut down the whole tribe in order to practice their religion. And I think it's like a religion day or like a religion week where they don't go to work, where they don't do anything bahana wise. They just focus on their religion so they can get things done in their own way.
Some villages do this?
Yeah, like Acoma,
you mean pueblos?
Or pueblos. Is that what they're called?
They're called pueblos.
Oh, well.
But I'm sure their villages are still called villages.
I think so too. but anyway, I mean, what I was proposing is that maybe we should have a tribe. Maybe we should have the tribe shut down no work day for about a week so we can practice our religion.
Some people would probably argue that the tribe shut down for pretty much quite a time of the year. So I'm just kidding. This paid sponsorship was paid for by Justin Villarreal.
Hey, Tom here with Hopi Relief. Hopi Relief is a nonprofit organization based down here in the Valley where we are providing much-needed supplies to the Hopi Reservation during this COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. Please visit hopirelief.org and find out how you can get involved. Hopi Relief is also an Arizona-recognized charitable tax organization. And please visit us December 1st on Giving Tuesday. Thank you.
Nice.
And then I guess aside the other idea that I had too in regards to some of the tougher parts, the negative parts of having to go 100% on the Hopi side and the 100% on the Bahana side is the financial commitments.
Oh, yeah.
Because even though we preach as Hopis that our culture and our religion, that there's no place for money within it, but the actuality is that there is.
Yep.
Is that it costs money. It costs us money when we have ceremonies. That we have to pay something because I guess in terms on the woman's side, you're having to cook and clean, meaning that you have to buy ingredients to cook food. You have to buy things to supply the ceremony with the food that it needs for the ceremony to take place. And then on the male side, that there are, basically you see it when you come out here to Hopi, if you're a visitor to Hopi, that you see certain dancing regalia on sale, or you see kachina dolls on sale.
Oh, yeah.
You see all these other different types of things on sale. And so, for people that don't learn how to make certain things, that you have to buy it.
Oh, yeah.
Pay for it.
Yeah, exactly. A long time ago, you didn't have to have money in order to create a ceremony because we grow our own corn, squash, beans, everything like that in between, and you didn't need money to do that. But nowadays, it does require a lot of money to.
Now we have to pay for rain.
Now we have to pay for rain.
You have to make that deposit.
Rain gods love the green, so.
And so, I think that really is another part, because then, you think about it, right? Because I've had this thought before. That, because one of the cardinal concepts of the life of a Hopi,
Yeah.
and you hear it often, and I don't think we've ever said it on this podcast before, is that there's this concept that Hopis are poor people, that we consider ourselves poor people. But the fact that even though we consider ourselves poor people, that our lives are very expensive.
Yeah.
Because then you think about a baby naming. When a baby is born, then you have a lot of your own female relatives scrambling to try to find baby blankets and pay the cost for a baby blanket. And something that just happened within my own life, I got married in the traditional Hopi way.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then so you had relatives trying to find sheep that now cost between $150 to $300 a head.
Oh, yeah.
And so, a lot of these different components that we need to do some of these cultural obligations, that we need to do some of these ceremonial practices are now costing us money.
Exactly. And it is costing us a pretty dime there. And without the jobs that we do have, none of these ceremonies today would even exist. I don't know how we would get a lot of these things done if we didn't have jobs. Although we could probably still go through the old ways, but nobody wants to go
Who
through
wants to do that?
Nobody wants to do that.
Because, goddamn it, all the women have to have 2 boxes of biki each to show that they contributed to the ceremony.
All women have to have the nicest apron on,
Or the nicest shawl.
the nicest shawl with the prettiest homa bowl.
Some of those butterfly dancer men have to have the perfect matzapman quill.
Yeah, exactly.
Got to take your pikana to get dry cleaned before you go out and make our prayer offerings for the rain. It's expensive.
It is expensive.
It's expensive
It is
living
expensive.
this hashtag Hopi life.
I guess we are very, very rich, living the rich life here.
We're poor people, but yet we spend like we're millionaires.
Bahanas can just spend it on movies and stuff like that. We spend it on clothes, designer stuff.
That designer brand, you have to have that top-notch weaver making all of your UC.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think those at least are probably two of the ideas most that come up in terms of what some of this negative side is as to being culturally engaged as well as being professionally engaged out here on the reservation. And then, for folks that don't have a whole lot of money, that kind of helps, or at least that provides some burden into when it comes to ceremony time when you're trying to participate. And then, there are some things going on behind that. But, one of the things that I've always believed in as I guess a quote unquote leader, I'm not calling myself a leader, but if you're in those positions, that aside from just bitching about our issues, what are some problem solving around some of these things?
Give me more money. Money solve.
The tribe got an extension on that COVID funds. They need to issue out more checks so I can pay for some of this cultural stuff that we need.
Yeah, my Bitcoin is in at the Weavers right now. I need to get it out,
I need to get my jewelry out from the pawn shop.
Had to pawn my jewelry and stuff, so my bells.
But I guess, one of the reasons why we wanted to kind of talk about this topic, and then though, and I don't think that we mentioned this at the beginning, that even though that this kind of position only pertains to a small percentage of people that are 100% engaged in the cultural and ceremonial obligations and who are also 100% engaged in a profession out here on the reservation, is that, as Hopi people, we talk a whole lot about the future.
Oh, yeah.
We talk a whole lot about what we don't have and what we would like to have. We talk about how we want a better economy. We talk about how we want jobs for our people. We talk about how we want homes for our people. And so let's say that, somebody gets it right in the leadership position and provides these jobs for future Hopis, that provides these homes for future Hopis, that this could be potentially the future for Hopi, that you have a lot more people that are engaged 100% in a profession, and then also engaged 100% within our cultural and ceremonial obligations. So in a way, it is a discussion about what the future Hopi could look like, having to be a professional, having to work a job that has significant importance to the reservation, but then also still fulfilling their obligations and duties on the ceremonial side, which is also as, if not more important, because like you said, our ceremonies bring the rain.
Yeah.
The rain allows our farmers to produce the corn, which is the necessity for us to live. And then so, you kind of have these two importances for people that are living now, but hopefully that the amount of people that are giving 200% grows and grows, because essentially that's what we want.
Yeah, exactly. And with that, that hardship, that stressful mindset comes into play, especially when you have a good paying job, but yet you're not dedicated enough to the religious side of it.
Mhm.
And which makes it all the difference, because, in the old ways, everybody had this mentality to say that if everybody thought about rain, it's going to rain. But now, if everybody thinks about money, we're not going to get money. We think about the Bahana side first, and we think on the weekends of a Hopi. So that's the mentality of how Hopi plays out
That's
now.
why we're weekend Hopis.
So that's why we're weekend Hopis. So,
But I guess, thinking outside of the box and thinking about the future, that, if that is the future for Hopi, that if you're going to have more Hopi professionals that are also engaging a whole lot within the ceremonial and the culture side, that I have thought about, some problem solving ideas of how can you make it so that we're giving our people the opportunity to be involved 100% on the ceremonial and cultural side, but also affording them the parts to where they don't get this burnout, where they don't get this fatigue from being 200% engaged. And I think that, one of the examples that you kind of talked about is one of that is the fact that, you mentioned that our relatives, the Pueblos in New Mexico, that sometimes that they completely close business down.
oh yeah,
When their ceremonies are going.
yeah,
And I think that's a prime example of showing that you're putting importance into your culture, that you're putting importance into the ceremony that's going to say that, okay, we have this big culture, the big ceremony coming up. We're going to stop being Bahana for this period of time. And then we're going to fully immerse ourselves back into being who we are.
yep,
To being able to fulfill these cultural and ceremonies. And I think that, one of the things that I've seen since I've been back home is that, the local high school here, the Hopi Junior Senior High School, that in the month of February, that they suspend school on Fridays
oh really,
every single week.
Mm.
And I think that that's kind of a small step into that direction, saying that, we're going to afford not only our students, but our staff, our faculty, the opportunity to have this time so that they can prepare themselves to be engaged with ceremony when it happens in February, because February is a big ceremony time
oh yeah,
for Hopi.
exactly. And so with that whole idea of problem solving, I don't know if we can actually solve the different problems here on the reservation, is because we don't have a mindset to say that, oh, okay, First Mesa is practicing their religion. Let's shut down Third Mesa for a while and, shut down a whole thing there. And because we have three mesas, and, shutting down just for one village means that they can't get paid at Third Mesa or something. So it kind of creates that how would you say that paradox that
There's a lot of
Yeah.
intricacies,
Yeah.
complexities
that
with how any type of problem solving might work.
yeah, exactly. And so that's the reason why I guess the tribe doesn't shut down on religious parts.
Because, we'd rather get that paycheck
Yeah, we rather get the paycheck in order
than
for
the clouds to come.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess, kind of some of the ideas that I had, and I think that you're kind of paralleling this idea that I had, is that out here we're so, and I think that's probably a reality for a lot of people, is that it's so branded in our head that a work week consists of 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday.
Yeah.
But why?
Yeah.
But why? Couldn't you do your work on a Saturday?
Yeah.
Couldn't you do your work on a Sunday? Couldn't you do your work at 6 o'clock p.m. instead of 5 p.m., 7 o'clock p.m., 8 p.m., 9 p.m., instead of just between those hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m.? And I guess really my argument is that, we don't have to bind ourselves to just that period of time, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday on a work week to get business done.
Yeah.
It's that if we know as Hopis, if we know as an entity, a business, an organization that's run by Hopis, that serves Hopis, know that ceremony is going to get busy, why can't we adjust the schedule to help with people to allow them to be engaged? For the month of February, we're going to suspend Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Instead, we're going to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
So the business can still get done. That way you have Thursday, Friday to do the other things that you need. It's catering to our culture, catering to our religion, catering to our people so that we can allow them to be involved with culture and religion.
See, I guess we don't think about that. We just think about the Pahana side of it. It's like, okay, Pahana works from 8 to 5. We got to do 8 to 5 because the money's coming from Pahana, and we have to show them that we're actually working from 8 to 5.
We have to make our offerings to the Pahana gods so that those paychecks will keep coming.
Yeah, exactly. We put the Pahana gods first and then rain gods second. So
I can buy my corn now. So.
Well, it looks like it's
real quick, and I think the other thing that I wanted to share too is that and there's aside from just the schedule change, I had kind of had some more wackier ideas. Was that if as an office, right?
Yeah.
As an office out here on Hopi that employs Hopis, that serves Hopi people, one of my outlandish ideas was, what if all of these offices installed bread ovens into the workplace? That way the women could make their bread while they're at work, while they're doing their work. And then us men that are working there, we get the benefit of smelling that wonderful aroma all day long. And then, maybe being able to sample some of it. But that, I think there's plenty that we could do in terms of problem solving to make it more beneficial for our people. There's a lot too that we haven't talked about in this episode, and potentially this could be another two-parter.
Yeah, so this could be a two-parter.
Mm-hmm. And so, like you're saying, we're about that time,
and we're about that time before I was rudely interrupted. So,
well, you talked about your job and Flagstaff. I wanted to talk about my great ideas.
I think my job is a lot more relevant to this conversation. So, but I think it is about that time that we go. And I know that we didn't touch on a lot of things, but I'm like what J-Man said, I'm pretty sure that this could probably be a two-parter episode because there are a lot of things and issues like that haven't been touched on. So if you do have an idea, please email us at cjpodcast85@gmail.com. Or if you want to donate anything, go to buymeacoffee.com/cjpodcast or go to our website anchor.fm/cjpodcast85 to become a monthly donor or to donate whatever you want to donate to. It really helps us out. It really helps us with topics. It really helps us with buying different things and keeping us actually alive here at the studio.
It has helped us out a lot. And then, once we get this YouTube series, we can physically show the folks out there, what we've purchased with your kind donations and your assistance. And, the fact that we've reached this level of 20,000 downloads. I mean, think about it, man. 20,000 times somebody heard one of your goofy jokes, and
20,000 times somebody
heard about Soul.
Soul thinks I'm cool, so.
And then, like another way you can support us too is continue to give us high ratings on whether you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts. If you're listening to us on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the likes. You're going to be wanting to having those notifications coming up when we're coming in hot with this new series. We'd like to thank everybody out there that's assisted us in any way, shape, or form. And, up to this point, we haven't given a shout out to our girl Kelly. So thank you to Kelly Tungovia, who's been responsible for all of the graphic work, all of the designs that you've seen on our Facebook, on our Instagram, Twitter, and I believe that's it.
Yeah. So if you see Kelly out on the thing, give her a props up. Say, hey, good job. Or give her an air high five and say, hey, good job making Carl look good. So
and she's worked wonders in doing that too. But we got some big things. We got big plans for season 4.
Oh yeah, big plans for season 4.
We got a big season finale that's going to be coming up. And then also too, we got some huge plans for 2021 just in general.
Oh yeah, exactly. So look out on YouTube for our new series called Us Be These Guys. And it'll be probably debuting sometimes this month in January. So if you're on YouTube listening to this, subscribe, hit the like button, and hit that bell icon or whatever they call it. So to be notified.
I like how you follow my instructions with your own instructions, the exact same instructions.
I think my instructions are a lot better coming from my voice. So
I think people just like to listen to you kind of drown in your own words.
Well, thank you again for listening to Carl and Jane Man. This is my best friend, Jay. This is my best friend, Jay Man. My name is Carl. This is my best friend, Jay Man.
So long. Quack, quack.